Hi, it's Darren from Deerline. Today we're going to talk about some canola tips for straight cutting canola. A few things to do with the machine. This happens to be a flex draper header that we're talking about right now. There's also draper headers as well. Basically the two headers of choice usually that most guys are using for cutting their canola. One of the things I'd like to mention as well, while I see this shaft here, one of the things that's pretty important on dual knife drive headers that a lot of people don't realize, and sometimes they're not set correctly, is the timing of your knife. Basically, there is a timing process done so that your knife cuts properly. If you're having issues at the center of your header, chances are your timing isn't set right. It's pretty easy to set. It's driven off a gearbox on each side. So basically what you'd do is you'd stroke both your knives all the way out, and then you'd put this shaft back on. Basically, so your knives are all the way out, all the way in. All you need to do is go from one side and just make sure that the knife on that side and the knife on this side are both stroked all the way out. That's proper double knife timing. That'll make your cut better. Actually makes your header run a little smoother as well. Next thing we're talking about, of course, is the divider adjustment. You can see on these floating dividers, there is an adjustment here where you can let them out so that it will go all the way down to the ground. You'd want that. As a rule, we like to see either the hoops on here, or best case scenario is using the side knives. Vertical side knives make a huge difference in cutting that crop. It makes a big difference in shatter on your crop. It makes a big difference for when you turn around and come back the next time when you're coming, instead of having all that crop plowed over and fighting with it. Basically it's all reciprocal to make that all work properly. So things like we do have what you call the Zern side knives available. When you put them onto the header, that makes a huge difference. You save a lot of crop too. It's just it's a good thing, and they're well worth the money. As we're working towards this, some of our canola cutting things, of course, when you get to the reel, we talk about what you'd ultimately want to do. I mean, conditions change, so sometimes, I mean, it depends on the conditions, but ultimately you'd want to have that reel all the way up and all the way back, so it's not even touching that crop unless you need it to keep the crop moving. And of course, when you're straight cutting canola, that crop is riper already, shatter is easy. You're trying not to touch it. What you want to do with having the reel farther back, of course, at least when you touch it, it is landing on the canvases and you're still putting it into the combine versus putting it down on the ground. With that said, having your header tilted back helps that as well, rather than having the steep angle on the header and the shattered material running off the front of the header. So as we're going with that, you have adjustments for on your reel for as far as aggressiveness. What we like to say is start in the middle. There's 5 adjustments, start in the middle, and then depending on your conditions, you might have to make adjustments there. Some of these things are field adjustments, and there is no set, this is it type adjustments. Some of those things are what we call field adjustments, which happens in the field under different conditions. Your top crop augers are a must in canola thrashing as well. Basically, your nicest set are the full width set. There were some earlier crop augers where they ended earlier, and that gives you corner plugs. What you really want is the full length augers, so you take those corner plugs away and feed them into the machine. You want to run your canvases as slow as possible to do the job. But of course you have to be able to feed the machine as well. Then of course you'd adjust your top augers so that they're just ever so slightly faster than your canvases, just to keep your crop flowing and not swirl that crop. So that's another adjustment we'll go through as we get over to the other side. I'll show you where we adjust the speed of the canvases. So now we're moving down towards the machine, getting closer to the center. course, we have our auger drum. Depending on our flex draper, we're not really having to adjust the finger nut timing, but if you're running a rigid draper header, in one of our previous videos I showed you how to adjust that finger timing. I like to see those fingers advanced so that our fingers are coming out earlier and taking that crop into the machine, stopping that boiling that happens up here a lot of times. And as well, with them advanced like that, they pull in faster down at the bottom, trying to stop that wrapping effect that you get a lot of times in your canola. Okay, here we are at the back side of the header now, and we're going to show you where you go to adjust that conveyor, your top crop auger speed. Right here is the wing nut for it and the adjustment valve. So you'd crack that loose and then you turn it in or out, in to slow it down, of course, out to speed it up, and you get that speed matched to your draper belts. Like I said, I like to have it just a hair faster than the draper belts, so it has that tendency to pull the crop on top to keep it straight, so that we're feeding it in heads first, more so than swirling it. Okay, now one of the other things in canola thrashing, with all of our hybrids and some of our shatter-resistant canolas now, it can be a lot difficult to get the pods split apart to do a good job, and it's something everybody's fighting with that a little bit, because it's a totally different adjustment of the combine than what we were normally used to and accustomed to in canola thrashing. Usually, as a rule, we're trying to be so gentle with the canola and everything, because it just shatters right away and everything. And some of these changes have really changed the game on us. So one of the beauties with the advanced power cast system, we're able to drop the straw from the rotor and spread the chaff. So now we're only dealing with what came out of the rotor section as we're looking at it on the ground, and even an operator just by himself can do that. Basically, you're looking to make sure that all your pods are split open, that you're thrashing it all out, and that you're not over thrashing it. But it is different settings than what we're accustomed to. It's not out of this world now to become running an 800 type rotor speed and a kind of a 10 for concave clearance. That is not out of the realms versus a few years ago. Had you told me that, I'd say, what are you doing? But that's how things change, and the things we face as time and technology changes and our crops change.